Grave Warden. I gotta turn off her. Ah! Turn off everything! Okay. So with this build, you always have Fade Away, just because... Yeah. You're always gonna have Fade Away, because one of our skills gives us Fade Away on every crit, and we crit no matter what. So this build does take quite a big inspiration from Killer 6's Destroyer Flak build, like Destroyer Worlds. So let's get into the main tree, I would say. And so starting off with Interplanetary Stalker, we have 4 points into it, and we also have 3 into Leave No Trace. So Leave No Trace allows us to replenish our ammo with every critical hit, and then we go into Hunter's Eye. We have our Stack Bot class mod that gives us extra points into it, and this gives us into head count. This is what gives us action skill cooldown rate whenever we score a critical hit. So this is what gives us our Fade Away constantly. It's always gonna be there, just because every single shot we fire is essentially a critical hit, and it's broken. This is probably the best. We skip Two Fang just because we don't really need it in this build, especially with the Monarchs that we use. And then we have 3 in Big Game, which just gives us better action skill. 3 in the Most Dangerous Game. This is just anytime we kill a badass, we get more gun damage, more critical hit, more handling. Deals increased critical hit damage, and enemies are less likely to attack them. Obviously, we're going to want Galactic Shadow just because it gives us increased damage. If it says increased damage, we want it. And 4 points into Grim Harvest. You could put 5 into it, but 4 is just fine. It just gives us increased gun damage and action skill damage. Like I said, if it says more damage, we're going to take the more damage. And then Megavore. Flak gains a chance to score a critical hit with weapons against any part of enemies. So this is what causes us, paired with head count. We basically don't have to aim, and with the Monarch, it shoots ridiculous amounts of bullets, so 20% of the time, the ridiculous amount of bullets is going to be a critical hit, which in turn decreases our cooldown, so we can Fade Away to have constant critical hits. And so that is basically that. Going into the green tree, we are using the actual Jabber Sidekick. You can use the Spider Ant Countess, just because it gives us the damage reduction, and that is very helpful. But also, if you're like farming bosses or anything like that, you're gonna want the Gunslinger Jabber, because it does give us critical hit damage increased. So going into the green tree, we have 5 in Self-Repairing System. This gives us more tankiness, it gives us max health regen, and constantly regenerates our health. Furious Attack, it gives us more handling and gun damage, and because we need it. And so I only have 1 point on my BFFs, just because it does keep our pet fairly healthy with just the 1 point in it, and it also gives us health regen. Lick the Wounds. When Flak is in fight for your life, their pet will attempt to revive them, and if it doesn't, gains increased damage. This is the most underrated skill. This has saved me so many freaking times. This skill is so busted. Mayhem 10, just trying to walk through the boss. You get a Lick the Wounds revive and you're set. Lick the Wounds is great. And also, I play this game solo most of the time, and so getting a revive is always pretty nice. So Turn Tail and Run, we have 3 points into it. It lets us constantly regenerate health and gives us damage reduction. While we're staying still, which we do with the Monarch a lot, we gain increased gun damage and fire rate. And so this, along with all my BFFs, this gives us our pet even more health regeneration as well. Fast and the Furious. While above half health, Flak's gun damage and movement speed are increased, and their pet gains increased damage. So, of course, it says increased damage. We're going to click it. We're going to grab it. We want it. We have 5 out of Hidden Machine. When an enemy has no target or is attacking a different target, that deals increased damage to them. And our pet is usually grabbing all of the aggro, because we have the... which one was it? One of these let our pet... someone doesn't attack us. I can't remember which one right on the top. And then Rage and Recover, we only have 2 points in, just because after killing an enemy, we get regeneration of health. So we also have a lot of health regen in this tree, and mainly it comes from Turn Tail and Run, and so that's why we don't need a ton in All My BFFs and Rage and Recover. And then we also go down to the power inside of Flak and Flak's pets gain increased damage when Flak activates an action skill. And when Flak is at full health, the increased damage is double. So this allows our fadeaway, which we are always in because it's always up and running. It gives us 25% damage flat for 15 seconds, and that's absolutely ridiculous. You saw what I did to Grave Ward whenever fadeaway was up and when fadeaway was down. So having fadeaway is very, very important. So going into the blue tree, which is usually the pet tree, we have kind of a sparingly amount of points. This is where we kind of put the rest of our points in that we didn't really want to put into these trees here. So this is kind of like a throwaway tree, but it's also pretty important with some skills. So ferocity, we have 2 points in. It just gives our pets increased damage. And then we also have Persistence Hunter, so increases Flak's gun damage and action skill duration. So this one is one of the more important ones in this tree, just because it gives us increased gun damage and more fadeaway. And then we have He Bites. When Flak's pet takes damage, the pet returns some of that damage to the attacker. It's just a kind of cheeky way to get a couple extra second wins possibly and stuff like that. Frenzy. Frenzy is pretty important. This is another one of the important skills in this tree. So when Flak's pet deals damage, Flak and their pet gain a stack of Frenzy. Each stack of Frenzy increases damage, the stacks decay after a few seconds, and you get basically 4% per stack, and you get 10 stacks. Who Rescue Q? Again, just more health regeneration, and it just keeps you sustained basically, and pretty good. I would say it so myself. Barbaric Yawp. Not only is that just a very great reference to Dead Poet Society, it is also just increase the power of pet bonuses granted to Flak, and that includes our multiple trees. It gives us Who Rescue Q, it gives us Frenzy, and everything like that. And then ending it off with our skill tree, we have all the damage dealt by Flak and their pet is increased. Additionally, the maximum health of both Flak and their pet is increased. So we only have one in this, and this is only because of our skill class mod, sorry. So going into the gear, now I am not fully geared out on this character, granted just because I haven't gone through the DLCs yet, and we are currently working on an ultimate playthrough of every character on my Twitch. So if you want to check my Twitch out, it's at twitch.tv/ohbother, and it'll also be in the description below. But going over what we have now, this gets us through late game content. It gets us through basically everything we're gonna need in order to get that very last bit of gear. So this is almost perfect, but we do just need to go through the DLC and get some different weapons. So starting off, we're gonna have Hellwalkers. Hellwalkers are in every single build. It's the most broken gun in the game, but it's also the most fun gun in the game. So Hellwalkers are super important. And then I also really like the Heartbreaker here. Heartbreaker is a legendary. You can farm it in the Handsome Jackpot DLC, and it basically keeps you sustained. It's a Moxie weapon, so you love it. And then also it keeps us super healthy because every damage that it deals, it gets sent to us. And also, I do not have these anointed correctly. These are not perfect anoints. That's another thing that'll also really help you. But I just haven't farmed the Iridium to get the perfect anoints. Basically, I want this to be a stepping point for you. You can follow the build, but the gear in this game can go any way you want it to. So it's also, you don't have to use my exact guns or my gear. The gear can be tailored to the way you want to play, so the anoints are the way you want to play as well. And then we also have 2 Monarchs. So the Monarchs are our main guns. I use Fire and Shock mostly. Fire usually the most, so you can farm these from Kilovolt on Mayhem 6 or higher, and you want to find the ×4 version. There is a ×8 version, but the ×8 drains your magazine so fast that it's not really worth it. The ×4, you can just spray and pray and get a lot more bullets, which allows us to get more crits, which allows us to get fadeaway faster. Going into my shield, You could use a Revolter if you have the DLC. I do not have the DLC, so I am using just a salvage or stopgap. And it does give me. This is one of my more anointed guns. So this is a stopgaps on shield break on every stop tap. You can become immune to any damage taken for 5 seconds. But this one also gives me the ability of 15% recharge rate on my shield, and also a 15% chance to absorb bullets as ammo. And when I exit fadeaway, it creates a Nova that is a ton of damage, like 136,000 damage. Going into a stack bot, this is not a perfect rolled stack bot, but it does give me the plus 44% assault rifle damage, which is why I use this one mainly, because we are using those Monarchs. It gives us the 44% damage buff along with all of our skills. Unleash the Dragon. You could use Unleash the Dragon. It's pretty good. However, I'm only using it for the 28% incendiary damage to pair with my Fire Monarch. And there are different artifacts in this game. Most notably the Pearl of Ineffable Knowledge in the Hammerlock DLC, which again I have not played yet. But that is going to be possibly the biggest relic artifact on this character, especially paired with the stack bot. So stack bot is good because whenever we score a critical hit, which we do all the time, they gain increased weapon damage. So yeah, it's going to stack well with the Pearl of Ineffable Knowledge. And then our cloning Hunter Seeker. Basically any Hunter Seeker is going to be really good on this build, especially when you have it paired with the Pearl of Ineffable Knowledge, because you're just going to get stacks and get more damage. So that is essentially the basics, bare bones of this build in itself. I really much love the build. Like I said, you've seen what we did to Grave Ward. We can mob fairly well with it. It is pretty slow. You do have to change your playstyle playing with these Monarchs, especially in the bipod mode, but it is a fun playthrough once you get to it. And with all of our skills, we are pretty sustainable. And that is it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. We are back on YouTube. We are back on Twitch. I will have a schedule video and stuff like that out soon. But thank you so much for watching, taking the time out of your day. Thank you very much. Bye.